Hey there, it's Brian Sebastian. It's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Worldwide TV Network, IT 247 out of Franklin, Tennessee, iHeartRadio, and all the platforms around the world. So we're going to kick this off. I'm in a new location. I'm back in Las Vegas right now. So out of Houston, Texas, we have Rachel Roberts. We have Will Howe. I can't wait to do this one. This is going to be interesting because, Will, I've been telling everybody about you. However, first, all right, Rachel, tell Will who you are and what you're doing.
Okay. Hi, Will. I'm in Houston, Texas. My name's Rachel Roberts, and I'm a home chef who does a lot of the social media. I do videos. I do a morning chat with coffee. I hope you join me and make sure to add me on all these things so you can see firsthand what I do. But I love to cook, and I love to share it with the world.
I think Brian sent me one of your video clips. I saw it briefly, and I love to cook. I'm just
good.
kind of a closet foodie.
Yeah.
But I'm a single guy. I live with my dog, and it's hard to get motivated to make a big spread when it's just yourself, But
No, I get it. Yeah.
I think it's a real art form, just as artistic as any other. And my hat's off to you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I look forward to seeing you watching me then and to join me. I can help you out. It's just me. I'm a single mom with two boys. So I get it, cooking smaller and, using the things that you've got, like the leftovers and, making different things with what you've got. So yeah, no, I'm all about it.
What is your favorite cuisine to cook? Do you have one?
Well, I'm in Texas, so I love Tex-Mex. We also, have a big Asian influence here. So a lot of Vietnamese food and, whatnot. I tend to use like a lot of fish sauce and, fun things like that. And then also I'm anything that I love to garden. My hands are actually got dirt on them right now. I was gardening when I forgot about all this and he sent me the link and I'm like outside going, oh, okay, I'll run in. So yeah, I love to cook with things that I grow. And I think that, it's important that every day you should, eat a little something that you've got growing in the garden, whether it's just herbs or, whatever's fresh. Of course, right now, where are you?
I'm outside of Chicago, about 30 miles west in a town called Elmhurst.
Okay.
And I've done a little bit of amateur gardening, and it's just great fun to have a big supply of serrano peppers. And if you need one, you just run outside and pull it off the branch,
Absolutely. I've got lots of serranos. I'm huge on peppers, all the peppers.
I do too. I love spicy food.
Oh, you're gonna love it. Yeah, you're gonna love me then.
So wait till you meet her in Tennessee when we all get together. But first, let's go back to this. I'm curious about the sticks in the clouds. How did this come about? And talk about what you used to do, because I've been telling a couple people about you, Will.
Well, I wanted to be an airline pilot since I was a little kid, and I worked my way up. I didn't go in the military, but I came up through civilian ranks. And in the late 70s and early 80s, there was a recession going on, and it was very difficult to get a pilot job of any kind of repute. And so, but I was lucky. I got working my way up as a flight instructor, and then I flew some charters, and then I was lucky enough to get a job flying for a rickety, small regional airline down in Arkansas. And it was bare bones and it was a lot of hard work, but it's where you cut your teeth, so to speak, and you became really good at it, or you washed out, either one. And we were right in Tornado Alley, just east of Oklahoma, up in Northwest Arkansas in Fayetteville, which is a college town. And we got to be really good friends. We bonded with our mates, and we always were joking about, I ought to write a book about this someday, and I kind of took that idea seriously because I always felt I had a story to tell. And, to make a long story short, I finally did get hired by United Airlines as a pilot. And I moved to Chicago, which is where I was from originally. And I was living downtown, and there's a branch of the University of Chicago right across the river from my apartment. And I enrolled in a course in fiction writing. And it was non-accredited. It was just, a dozen of us young adults that wanted to do it for fun. And my teacher was from India, and she'd been in the States for a long time as a professor, and she was brilliant. And I loved that course, and I thought she was phenomenal. But she didn't suffer fools gladly. If she called on you and she didn't like your answer, she kind of browbeat you a bit. And I didn't take it personally, but by the end of the 10 or 12 weeks, there were only about 4 or 5 of us left. But she called me up at home, which really surprised me. And she said, I just want to let you know, if you're serious about writing a book, that you could do it. And here's how you do it. You just write the first scene and think of it as a stepping stone, and don't write a fancy outline. Don't think about the ending. Just write that first scene. And then you step onto that stone, and then you write the second scene, and you see where the story takes you. And so when I hung up the phone, I thought, well, now I have to at least try it. You know, that was a real kick in the pants that I needed. And but I knew I was a terrible procrastinator, and I knew it was going to be hard work, and I'd have to be committed. And I thought, how am I going to do this? And so I thought, just try to write 50 pages, which I did. And then I thought, write another 50. So I had 100. And once you get about 100 down, you've invested something significant, and you know, you don't want to put it down. You want to keep going, which I did, fortunately. And it just was my first novel, and it was a magical experience. I'd never done anything like it. And it, you know, it made my imagination stronger. You know, your brain is like a muscle, like anything else. And I was getting all these ideas in the middle of the night and writing them down, and the story was starting to take shape. But I didn't want to just tell a story about aviation and a group of pilots. I thought that would be good for maybe 60 pages. And then it would, no matter how I wrote it, it would start to get kind of boring. And I wanted to tell a bigger story. I wanted to broaden it out and incorporate universal themes so it would appeal to a wider audience. And so in this course, I had developed a character, which was sort of an assignment that our teacher gave us. And I started to sketch out this young woman whose parents fled Cuba right after the revolution in 1960. And I've always been amazed by people that, for whatever reason, have found themselves having to learn a new language and a new culture to survive, you know, to start over again. And even though her name was Olga, she was born in the States, but she kind of grew up vicariously, feeling like her parents, like her roots were somewhat in Cuba as well. So there she is in Arkansas, in this town, and she's absolutely gorgeous, and she seems older than she is. So this pilot, who's the protagonist, Matt, he gets hired by this airline, and he moves down there. He feels very fortunate, and he sees her, and he's just stuck. I mean, he's just dumbstruck by how gorgeous she is, and he thinks he'd never have a chance of going out with her. She just, you know, she was way above his league, and but he, you know, he's obsessed with her. And so the story goes on, and in a way, it's two stories linked by common themes. It's the aviation part, and then things transpire. The pilots try to form a labor union in response to their management's tactics, and it has many twists and turns. But then there's a very intense, near fatal plane crash, and Olga's father happened to be one of the passengers on board. And so, as it turned out, Matt was responsible for rescuing him and helping him evacuate the airplane. And when they crashed, her father sustained a broken leg. So after the crash, they had a big party at one of the pilots at his house, in the country, which was sort of an annual event. And Matt has always had a hard time seeing himself in a confident way. He's sort of plagued by self-doubt. And that comes out.
Let me ask you this. Is Matt based on you a little bit?
A good question.
I was wondering that too.
You know, not really. I wouldn't say so, but you know, I wrote this story and I used material from my own life. So indirectly, some of the things were, but most of the characters, including Matt's, were composites. You know, you take 2 or 3 people and you kind of combine them and invent one that you want to make out of those people. And so I think I tried to not be him as much as possible. There were probably some things that I didn't hide as well as I could, but I had to write from my own experiences. So, you know, in that context, some of those things were me.
Well, let me ask you this. What would make Rachel pick this book up and buy it, and why? In a thumbnail sketch, because she's that gardener. She likes to get her hands dirty and create things like this. So when it comes to Sticks in the Clouds, what would make her and what would make the audience want to buy this?
You know, it's a book that has a lot of things that a lot of different people could relate to. Now, Matt's mother's a gardener. She's always out in the garden. And he goes home when his father has a heart attack, and she's working in the garden. And there's a scene where she's very upset, and she goes out to the garden, and Matt goes out and finds her there. And she shows him these flowers, and she said, you know, they're just so beautiful, and they bloom in the early summer, but by the end of June, they're gone. They're all gone. It's sort of a metaphor for life. You know, it's fleeting, and you have this beautiful life, but it comes with an end.
It's a story of love too. And I think, you know, as a woman, we like stories about love, and you know, this guy, Matt, who finds love, right? Does he end up with the girl that he thinks he can't get, or what?
Well, I don't want.
I got to read it.
I don't want to give it away, but you know, it has a very climactic ending, because, you know, after the crash, he gets the courage to ask her out on a date, which he should have done a long time ago, but he was afraid of failure. And she, you know, she was grateful that he saved her father. And, you know, she tells him, you know, my father's life means a great deal to many people. I'll always, you know, be grateful to you and Mark for saving him. So then he finally has the courage, after this near-death experience, to just do the normal thing and ask her out on a date. And she says, I'd love to. And so they go on this date, and through her and through the dialogue, he learns about the Cuban Revolution and the fact that when they left Cuba and came to the States, Olga's uncle, who was her mother's brother, decided to stay behind. In the beginning, he believed in Fidel Castro, and he wanted to support it, and he thought it would be unpatriotic to leave. But then Castro showed his true colors and turned the revolution into a Marxist dictatorship. So Olga's uncle completely changed his mind, and he would insult Castro at public speeches. So he was arrested. And for the last 20 years, he's been a political prisoner, tortured, you know, harmed deeply in prison. He was lucky that he escaped the firing squad. But so towards the end, you know, he's up to speed on Cuban history and the revolution. And Olga's father, who's a college professor, a very esteemed professor, gave him a short lecture on the history of the revolution and some Cuban history. So towards the end of the book, Olga calls Matt on the phone, and she's all upset. She's so distraught because they found out that her uncle was finally released from prison.
I think you should stop there. I think you're starting to give too much away.
Okay, well, you're right. I hate to do that, but you know, if you go on the website, it's hard to hide it, you know, and a little bit is there. And
what's the website?
It's called willardhowe.com.
Okay.
WILLARDHOWE. And Kelly wanted to say something like, does Matt get the girl and save her uncle from, a near fatal hunger strike? And I said, Kelly, the answer to those two questions is already implied by the questioning, So she said, you're right. Let's take that out of there. So it's a fine line between giving people enough information to where they'd be curious enough to read the book and giving away the climactic ending.
In your book, you can find on Amazon and stuff like that. Yeah,
it's available in paperback and in Kindle format.
Oh, that's great. That's what I've got. I love my little reader.
Yeah. Talk about this. Well, talk about how it came to Hasmark. How did that happen?
I had worked on it for over 12 years and poured my heart and soul into it. And in the beginning, I thought, how am I going to have enough content to write a 300-page plus book? And in the end, I had to take out 20,000 words. You go off on tangents and you don't always see it. So of that 12-year period, it wasn't nonstop. There were, a couple of months, many times where I just put it aside so I could pick it up and look at it from a fresh perspective and see it differently. And I would see it differently. I would think that's not important enough. And I would take things out, streamline it, try to fix little errors and typos. And I was fixing little mistakes up until the 11th hour.
Oh, wow.
And there's things you don't catch. And even I had two proofreaders. I didn't think I would need them after all that, but I did need them. But the first one, she missed a lot of things too. But the second one was really, really sharp. So I was very happy by the way it turned out. I got to say what I wanted to say. It's a book that has, I think, a very uplifting, positive message. It's a book that reinforces that you should live life with passion and don't give up when things get hard, and be very committed to your dreams. Don't let them go easy. And, cherish your family and friends because you don't know how long they've got on this earth.
That's
Matt,
so true.
Matt, maybe I shouldn't even give this away, but
don't you dare. Don't you dare. Don't do it. Matt, let me ask you this. Were you, in the middle of writing this, you were flying the whole time too. So when you were flying, were you thinking about your book most of the time? Because I'm curious about that.
They probably should have grounded me, because fortunately I could compartmentalize. But I wrote a lot of this on layovers in Paris and some other places. But there was a decade when I just loved to fly to Paris, and I would fly with a lot of the same crew members. And instead of going and socializing, I would go to a park bench right by the Eiffel Tower. I mean, it was just, sounds like a cliche, kind of Hemingway-ish, but we stayed at a hotel that was by the Pullman. It was right by the Eiffel Tower. And, I had to get some words in, and I would set goals. You have to have a word count goal for every time you sit down. There was one time, it was a Sunday in the summertime, and I wanted to find a different place to write. So I ended up going to the Tuileries Garden, which is right by the Louvre. And I couldn't find a place to sit down. It was so crowded. And I finally found one chair under a tree. And I started writing. And it was starting to go really well. And I had my head down, and I got lost in the story, which is what you always hope will happen. It hardly ever is that good. But this was one of those times. So when I finally came up for air, I had close to 2,000 words written, and I look around and there's nobody around me, everybody gone. Well, in Paris, the public gardens, the parks, they close at a certain hour and they lock the gates. And I thought, I don't want to get locked in here and miss my flight in the morning. Well, they couldn't have left without me, but luckily the gate was still open. But
that's funny.
That was a productive time. But
Rachel, you know what he did? He grounded himself, sort of like how you are in your garden. So, and being underneath that tree, that's a spiritual thing. That's what I did. Anytime I'm not working, I had to go to the park and sit in the park. And I talked to a lot of my friends who are homeless. And I get those
Yeah.
perspective on things, and then it kind of brings you back into reality. So that makes
Yeah.
sense. Congratulations on that.
I
Yeah.
never answered your question. And I was very frustrated because I thought that marketing this story was much harder than writing it. When you write it, you have some control over it. But I found the marketing part completely foreign to me. I didn't know what I was doing. And so a lot of time was going by, and I'm like, it's a shame this book may never come out of the closet, And my niece got married last June in Hilton Head. It was a gorgeous wedding. And she was my sister's oldest daughter. And my sister's best friend from college was there, Lori. And Lori's an artist. She's always been like far out there. She's extremely artistic. Even when she was younger, she had a production company for kids in theater and dance. And, she just got this idea to do this radio documentary about Audubon. And she did all the voice work. She did the music, the lyrics, the research. And so we were talking, about her project and my project. And I said, Laura, I don't know how to get this published. And she said, oh, you get in touch with Judy at Hasmark. So that's how it happened. And so I think she even, made an introduction for me with Judy. And I contacted her, and we had a Zoom conference, and it just fell right into place. And I couldn't have been more happy. I think they've been wonderful. They've been very supportive. The whole structure is designed to help you get on a bestseller list. And
Wow.
The new cover design turned out so well. And
It's beautiful.
so, yeah, thanks. And I mean, I wish I could claim credit for it, but I think it was Anne at Hasmark that did that. But so on Wednesday, I'm going to have a Zoom with Kelly. She's going to help me try to take this into the social media realm, which, I mentioned I have a hard time with. But so it's been a long process, and I'm happy that I'm talking to you guys about it because, I submitted it for review, which is sort of a nerve-wracking thing. And both times it came back with positive reviews. And so, every time I've kind of sent it out there, it's come back in a positive way. So, I think it's an inspiring story. You don't really have to care about aviation or know anything about it to get something out of this book. There's enough there for people to connect with the universal themes. We've all lost a parent if you're of a certain age. We've all, struggled with insecurities.
Sure.
Things like there's even a scene where it's not a theme per se, but it's the question of if you ever had the opportunity to get back together with a past love, you broke up, you went your separate ways, and all of a sudden you have a chance to maybe get back again. Would you? Could you? That's sort of explored in a side story. So
well, I like that because that's I have a rating system called the 4 E's. It doesn't matter if it's a book, CD, movie, or whatever. What you created was like doing a documentary. Documentaries take an average of 7 years to do because you got to raise your money, you got to do the marketing stuff, all this. You got to get people, you got to get permission, all of these things like this. So we just had a show where we talked about music rights, where, a lot of times you have to get music for this. So Steven Spielberg said this to me, and it just reminded me what you said, Will. Once I finish my baby, I have to hand my baby over to the marketing team, and he has no control. And it's right. What you did, you had to hand your baby over to Hasmark. So now it's in our control what we did to help you get the word out of what you're doing now, if that makes sense. And with that, we got about 8 minutes. So Rachel, what do you think about what Will has written so far?
Oh, it sounds really good. I actually, so I grew up, my mom, she organized performing group tours all over the world. So I grew up, fortunate enough to get to travel And in fact, like every Christmas, it was a trip to Paris. So, I'm like, there's little things that you're telling me about your story that it's been a year since I've been, but, I want to pick up your book and I want to read it. And I want to, you've got me hooked, and I'm a social media junkie. So once I read it, and then, I'll make sure to put it out there on all my stuff for sure.
Great. Thank you very much. I hope I have a chance to taste some of your dishes.
Me too.
Well, here's the challenge. We're all going to meet in Tennessee. Will you come in? You're probably flying to plane, and who knows?
You know what? I may drive down, Brian, because it's only 8 hours. And I've learned the hard way over the years that when you really want to get there and not get bumps or have to worry about weather, you drive. You don't always have that option, but Nashville's just an 8 or 9 hour drive. So,
wow.
Well, and that's the whole thing about getting everybody together. I mean, I can't stop looking at the book. The cover looks inviting. I love the way it does.
Yeah, it makes me want to go on that trip.
Yeah, and people ask me, what does that mean, Sticks in the Clouds? And I'm like, it's a surprise. It gets revealed twice in the book, but I don't really want to give it away because, many times when you read a book and then all of a sudden you read the title,
it comes together.
I
love that.
Oh, that's what that means. So
yeah,
you
don't
have
tell us then.
I won't tell you.
Hey, let me ask you this last question.
Come to that.
What is your AR in it? You have AR in your book yet?
Yeah, it's really nice. It's mostly a lot of Cuban, but it's supposed to be representative of some of the major scenes from the book. And it took 4 takes to get it right. And my only involvement of it was to reject it. I rejected the first 3. And the 4th one, I was really hoping that he'd get it right because I thought, I'm going to be so annoying. They're not going to want to hear from me anymore. They can't do anything to please me. And I really like it. And if you go on the website, on the homepage at the top, you can just click on video trailer and you can watch it. It's a little over 90 seconds. You got to turn your volume on. For some reason, it turns it off on your computer, but it's very colorful. It turned out great. The music is Cuban, and it's
I love that.
It's inviting. Yeah. And I told the Hasmark gals, I said, he nailed it. It's not perfect, but for somebody that's never read the book, I don't think he had read the book. He got very close to it. And, it's just a 90-second enticement. It's supposed to make you want to dig further, and read the book. So I think it turned out really well. And I told those guys, I said, his name is Ramon. I said, I tell Ramon, thank you so much, because it's just great. It fits in perfectly. And I said to Mary Kate, I said, it's too bad I can't put that on my website. It's the AR part of the book. And she said, oh, you can. So it's on the website if you wanted to look at it.
Cool.
So Rachel, real quick. Okay, go ahead, yes. Rachel, go ahead.
So if this makes, bestseller, top 10 and all of that, are you going to write another one? What happens if everybody wants more?
Well, I've thought about that, and I have an idea for a second book, but it has some problems. It's a book that would investigate the dark side of the human psyche. I mean, it would be totally
different.
Totally different. And I don't know if I could pull it off. I think I might try it. I won't go into too many details, but I was working with this lady, Donna. She's a marketing gal. Some years ago, she was helping me get my website up and running. And I said, Donna, I have this idea for a book, but it's really dark and depressing. And, and I said, people don't want to read something like that. And she said, no, that's where you're wrong.
Yeah.
They're fascinated by that. And I thought, well, you're right.
Well, people want to read about many different things.
Right.
And here's the thing. I'm going to leave it at that because you're still manifesting everything. I think sometime out of Tennessee, you'll have a better idea, especially when you meet Terry or some of the other women down there too, which will be really, really good. All right, Rachel, give your social media links really quick because we got about 2 minutes.
Rachel Roberts recipes. Rachel Roberts recipes. Yeah.
It's all one word.
Yep.
Okay, I'll go look it up right now.
And Will, real quick, where they can get your book, go ahead.
It's on Amazon. It's supposed to be on Porchlight Books, and I think it is. And it was supposed to be on Barnes & Noble, but I don't know if it's there yet. So I'll find out Wednesday. I'm going to be talking with Hasmark. But right now, it's totally available on Amazon in paperback or Kindle format.
Okay, with that, we got just enough time. All right, so Rachel, I want to thank you for that. And who knew that one of his characters was into gardening? Who knew? So, Will Howe, pleasure meeting you. We will talk to you soon. And take a look at this book because I can't stop looking at the cover, Sticks in the Clouds from Hasmark. I'm Brian Sebastian. This is Movie Reviews and More. And we will see you next time.
Thanks.